All right, so this time you've really sent us into some interesting territory.
Yeah.
We're diving deep into a technique called
The start-stop method.
the start-stop method.
Right.
And this source we have is really like a masterclass in
Absolutely.
amplifying pleasure.
Yeah, it's definitely way more intricate than the name suggests, I think.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about not just the how-tos, but also the why.
Right, the why.
The psychology and the physiology that make this technique so effective.
Yeah, so, okay, the source kind of jumps right in. And one of the first things that struck me was the emphasis on comfort.
Yes.
And I mean, I think we get it. Pleasure is the goal.
Right.
But it really emphasizes comfort for both partners.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where I think this source really shines. It's practical.
Yeah.
Not just theoretical. Like, who would thought about putting a pillow under her hips?
Yeah, not your everyday advice. Not your everyday advice,
Right.
but why does it matter? Is it just about comfort, or is there something more going on?
It's all about maximizing sensation.
Okay.
When you elevate the pelvis like that, it changes the angle of everything.
Right.
It can take pressure off certain nerves
Okay.
and increase contact in key areas.
So we're talking like anatomy here.
Yeah,
like
yes.
actual specific muscle groups.
Specific muscle groups and pressure points.
Exactly.
What?
Like, for instance, the pelvic floor muscles play a huge role in orgasm.
Right.
And this simple adjustment can make a world of difference in how those muscles are stimulated.
Wow. I never thought about it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of the details,
Mm-hmm.
the source also talks a lot about
Yeah.
taking things slow, building up anticipation,
Yes.
which is almost like the opposite of
That's
what
right. Right.
most people do.
It's like comparing a firework exploding in an instant
Right.
versus a slow, steady burn that just keeps building intensity.
Right.
And that slow buildup.
Yeah.
It's key to tapping into the psychological power of anticipation.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Doesn't the anticipation...
Often make the reward even sweeter.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've covered the setup, the importance of comfort, and that slow buildup.
Right.
Now let's get to the heart of it all.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly is the start-stop method?
Well, at its core, it's all about bringing her close to the peak of excitement,
Okay.
then easing back, letting the sensations subside a bit, and then building it back up again.
Okay.
It's this tantalizing dance of escalating pleasure
Right.
with moments of strategic retreat.
So is it kind of like edging, but with a more
You could say that.
structured approach?
Yeah, you could say that, but what's fascinating is the why behind it.
Okay.
Why would this back and forth be more pleasurable
Right.
than just, well, going for it?
Yeah, spill the scientific tea on this one.
All right, so it's a two-pronged attack, really.
Absolutely.
On the psychological side,
Mm-hmm.
if we're talking about the power of anticipation, like we discussed,
Okay.
that building tension creates a mental and emotional craving for release.
Right.
But then there's the physiological side, and that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
When you edge, you're essentially flooding the nervous system with pleasurable sensations.
So bringing her close
Yeah.
and then easing back sends her body on this like roller coaster of
Exactly.
stimulation.
And with each wave,
Right.
her body releases more and more endorphins and dopamine.
Wow.
Those feel-good chemicals that make the whole experience
Right.
so incredibly pleasurable.
Yeah.
And as those levels rise, the final release becomes even more powerful.
Okay, now that makes sense.
Mhm.
But how do you know when to, stop?
Right.
The source mentioned something about watching for cues.
Yes.
It's a little vague.
Well, that's where the real art of this technique comes in. Becoming attuned to her body language.
Yeah.
We're not just talking about obvious signs like moaning louder.
Okay.
It's about noticing subtler shifts.
Okay.
For example, the way her breathing changes,
Mm-hmm.
the tension in her muscles,
Right.
the subtle movements of her hips. All these can tell you how close she is to the edge.
So it's almost like learning a secret language.
Exactly. And that's where communication, both verbal and nonverbal, becomes so essential.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like mastering this technique is all about like really seeing your partner,
Yes.
understanding her responses on like a deeper level.
You hit the nail on the head. It's
Yeah.
not just about physical technique.
Right.
It's about creating a truly intimate connection.
Right.
And this is where the source takes us beyond the mechanics and into the realm of the emotional.
Yeah, it's like the source is saying, don't just do the technique, feel it, experience it together.
Yes.
There's this whole section on compliments, verbal affirmation,
Right.
and making her feel desired throughout the experience.
And those words spoken in the heat of the moment
Right.
can be incredibly potent.
Yeah.
Imagine how it feels to hear your partner express their desire for you,
Mm-hmm.
how much they're enjoying pleasuring you.
Right.
It creates this incredible feedback loop. Yeah. Amplifying the pleasure and deepening the intimacy.
I can see how that would take things to a whole new level.
Right.
But the source doesn't stop there.
No.
It goes beyond the act itself.
Yeah.
Talking about post-coital intimacy.
That's right.
Like cuddling, holding her close.
Yeah.
Maybe even whispering how much you enjoyed pleasuring her.
Exactly.
It's about extending that connection and intimacy
Yeah.
beyond just the physical.
Right.
It's almost like a way of expressing gratitude for this shared experience.
Exactly. And it reinforces the idea that intimacy isn't just about the act itself.
Right.
It's about all the moments surrounding it.
Right.
The before, the during, and the after.
So we've got this intricate physical technique,
Right.
but it's all like interwoven with this deep emotional connection.
Yes.
And speaking of connection, the source suggests something pretty interesting.
Okay.
Reflecting on the experience together,
Mm-hmm.
even having a conversation about it afterward.
Now, that's something I think a lot of couples might shy away from.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But it's so valuable.
Yeah.
It creates a space for open communication.
Right.
Where both partners can share what they enjoy, what they'd like more of, and any areas for exploration.
For sure.
It's about turning intimacy into a shared journey of discovery.
And not just like a one-time thing.
Right.
This kind of communication can help you like continually refine
Absolutely.
and deepen your intimacy over time.
It's about constantly learning and growing together as a couple,
Yeah.
becoming more attuned to each other's needs and desires.
This source is really blowing my mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's making me realize that there's so much more to intimacy than I ever thought.
And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It's this endlessly fascinating and evolving aspect of human connection.
For sure.
And while this source focuses on the start-stop method, the underlying principles apply to any intimate act.
So it's not just about learning a technique.
Right.
It's about adopting a whole new mindset.
Precisely. It's about approaching intimacy with presence, mindfulness, and a genuine desire to connect with your partner on all levels.
I'm definitely going to be incorporating some of these ideas into my own life.
Yeah.
The whole concept of slowing down, building anticipation.
Yes.
And really focusing on the emotional connection. That's something I'm really drawn to.
Those are such valuable takeaways.
Yeah.
And remember, it's not about being perfect.
Right.
It's about being open to exploring
Mm-hmm.
and discovering what works for you and your partner.
And that includes being open to trying new things.
Right.
Like the source's suggestion of incorporating hands for additional stimulation.
That's a great example. Now, remember, not every technique or touch will resonate with everyone.
Right.
What's crucial is that you're both on the same page
Yeah.
and communicating openly about what feels good.
So it's all about finding that sweet spot where both partners feel comfortable,
Yes.
excited, and ready to explore.
Exactly.
And that's where this whole idea of communication becomes so vital.
Absolutely. It's the foundation of any fulfilling and lasting intimacy.
As we're wrapping up this deep dive into the start-stop method,
Mm-hmm.
one thing that keeps coming back to me is this whole idea of presence.
Yeah.
Like the source really hammers home that
Right.
this isn't just a physical technique, it's like a whole mindset shift.
It's about being fully immersed in the experience.
Right.
Not just going through the motions.
Yeah.
And that level of presence
Yeah.
allows you to truly connect with your partner, to anticipate their needs,
Right.
and to respond to their cues
Right.
in a way that just deepens the intimacy tenfold.
And the source gives some pretty specific advice on how to like cultivate that presence.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just some vague concept. It's like, here are the things you can do
Exactly.
to be more present.
It's about those simple yet powerful actions like maintaining eye contact,
Right.
sharing your feelings,
Yeah.
breathing together,
Mm-hmm.
and really tuning into her rhythm and energy.
Yeah.
It's about creating the synergy where you're both moving as one.
It's like you're both so in sync, so attuned to each other,
Right.
that the pleasure becomes almost like a shared energy flowing between you.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
And that level of connection,
Yeah.
that shared experience of pleasure, is where the magic truly happens.
And I love how the source encourages us to celebrate the journey,
Yeah.
not just focus on the destination.
Yes.
It's like savor every touch, every sensation, every moment of connection along the way.
It takes the pressure off,
Yeah.
allowing you both to relax, explore, and truly enjoy the process.
Right.
It's about appreciating the beauty of intimacy in all its forms.
And that brings us back to that like central message
Right.
that's kind of woven through the entire source.
Yes.
It's about finding what works for you as a couple,
Exactly.
what resonates with one couple might not work for another, and that's perfectly okay.
That's right. It's about embracing the uniqueness of your connection and creating an intimate landscape that reflects your shared desires and preferences. There's no right or wrong way to experience pleasure. What matters most is open communication, exploration, and a willingness to adapt to each other's needs.
It's about fostering a space where both partners feel safe, empowered, and free to express their desires, and to explore their sensuality without judgment or shame.
And to continuously learn and grow together, both as individuals and as a couple. Intimacy is a journey, not a destination.
This entire deep dive has been like a revelation. I feel like I've gained a whole new understanding of what intimacy can be.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Likewise.
And as we wrap up, I'd like to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
Remember that pleasure is a gift. It's something to be shared, celebrated, and cherished.
Beautifully said. That's a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the art of enhancing pleasure.
Thank you.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep connecting, and keep the conversation going.